everyone, Joshua Hanlon here with Boone Langston, and we are about to set off on an exciting show tour of the entire show floor here at BrickCon 2018. So we've got this nice overview here. Boone, what catches your eye from the top down like this?
Well, we've got a cardboard cutout of a man who isn't here right next to an awesome winter build. Those are definitely some eye-catching things we've got going on. Should we head downstairs?
We should. Shouts out to Cardboard Tommy there that you mentioned earlier. You know, he sadly could not join us here at BrickCon this year, but, you know, he's here in spirit, I think, for sure.
Right next to the stairs here, we have a tragic mishap with the Lego Astromech droid, and we've got some police caution tape surrounding the area, and oh man, this is a scene to behold.
The black tape, I think, is my favorite touch here.
Yeah, and the crime weapon there.
So I don't know the backstory behind this, but I'm sure it was tragic and not good.
I think what I heard was that there was a failure in the leg, and the leg separated from the body, and then the rest, as they say, is
it all went downhill from there.
It all went downhill from there. But that's a nice segue to we've got the Star Wars theme right behind us.
So we've got this very large cinema here. It's like a Star Wars drive-in area, and there's lighting. There's all sorts of Star Wars vehicles there. It doesn't look like there's anything playing right now. But then you've got the Sandcrawler in the back, and I forget what these green things are called.
Dewbacks.
Yes,
we got a little pack of dewbacks there. They call that a dewback pack, or maybe just a dewpack. This movie screen has a tablet in it, and I think it has been playing some Star Wars movies or something during the day, during the public hours of the show.
Looks like some even custom printed posters on the buildings there and stuff, kind of advertising movies. So lots of fun little details.
And a little sarlacc there at the back of the movie theater area.
Don't get in without buying a ticket. Then we have this very large lighthouse, which according to the mock card information here is actually based on a real lighthouse in the south of France, which is pretty cool here. And it's quite a large layout. You've got all of like the water kind of parts dumping, and you got the very nice gray lighthouse, and then it transitions into the tan and dark tan with like the little farmhouse over there.
And I am partial to the Volkswagen, so I like to see the little blue Volkswagen with the surfboard on top in this mock.
It's like didn't Lego make a version that's sort of that size?
I do think there is a version that's that size. I can't tell what about that one right there is or is not official, but there's like a net down in the water there with, what are they catching? Are there crabs in that net or just garbage?
I think it's yellow and red crabs.
There you go. It's a crab net.
There you go. You know a lot about your French coastal fishing. And then we have next to that is an Alaska plane hangar. So there's a whole bunch of builders listed on the mock card here. Looks like this is Payne Field. So this is like north of Seattle. Then this is like where the Boeing factory tour is today.
Yeah, I love old planes. I think probably my favorite plane in this build is that Alaska Airlines, this old airliner, really neat plane. And I think one of the neatest kind of details about this build are the sort of skid marks that they've created on the runway by placing their bricks and plates on their side and sort of running those different colors the lengthwise of the runway there. That's pretty neat.
And the big Alaska lettering over the hangar I think is great as well. Those big gray panels for the roof. And then down here we've got a small build by Alice Finch. So this is Hogwarts on the Lake. We'll see. I think a number of her builds are kind of sprinkled throughout the show here, so we'll see some more of her work later. But that's some nice micro-scale building from Alice there. And
we have, Kevin Bergstresser's Modern Arts Council and Post Office right behind that. I've seen this a few times in social media, and this is the first time I'm getting to see it in person, and it's a really nice-looking building. And I think, what is that, Daphne from Scooby-Doo there on the front steps of...
Always like some good minifigure placement. Research team shenanigans over here. So this is like an alien planet or something, and it looks like there's like research teams kind of running amok over there.
All right, and right next to that, we've got the Portland building. This is from Christina Ritzman. We've talked about this before. It's one of the most hideous buildings in Portland, but it's so iconic because it's so unique in its design. And so it comes out as a really fantastic mock replica of that actual building in Portland.
I think hideous is a relative term. It's very unique. I think it's got some good sides to it.
Have you seen it in person?
I don't know if I have. Maybe I just like the photo in this model.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really nice in that photo in this model. I think that's like when the building was brand new.
Okay.
And I mean, it really does look cool as a mock because, the colors of these Lego elements are just spot on for how the building looked when it was brand new. And again, I think I've talked about this building before. It looked amazing in the concept sketches. And when they built the building, it just didn't look that great.
I'll take your word for it
this
then.
mock looks better than the actual building.
In front of that, we've got Delicate Arch from the Arches National Park in Utah, so one of the kind of iconic natural landmarks out west in the U.S. Disney's Aladdin Castle.
I like these Land Rovers down here in the Land Rover Canyon crossing. Cool, 4x4 vehicles kind of doing some crazy stuff there.
I think this guy in the corner would be me on the Land Rover adventure. He's just got like his globe and his big book there, just trying to. I'm not sure what exactly that guy's goal is, but I really identify with that character. This is Anu Pearson, who was just here a second ago. I think we missed her, unfortunately, but she built this awesome Rialto Bridge from Venice, and one of probably the most iconic thing in Venice, almost. So it's just really, really beautiful, very well done.
I've never been to Venice, so I don't have any firsthand experience with this place, but it is a fantastic-looking mock.
Mm-hmm. She captured it very nicely, and it's very full of people just like that in real life. So if you can find a time when there aren't a ton of people there, it's better, but I don't think that happens. So then we've got this big build by Paul Hetherington, and we've shown this, I believe, in the past. This was at, was it Bricks Cascade? I think he had this?
It was. He's expanded it a bit.
Okay.
So there's actually a completely new 32 deep border all the way around, and he's expanded these factories that are kind of encroaching in on the Wonderland there. So it's gotten a much larger footprint than the last time we saw it.
We should point out this incredible photo here that's very, very cool. I really like that as well. Some excellent build photography. And then
I got to mention Ben Kahn's sausage stand from the Sausage Lug there. They like to use hot dogs in their mocks, and there's a lot in this one.
Sausage Lug, one of the more interesting lugs in the community. So this is then the castle modules. So this is a modular castle system that I think has been at BrickCon for as many years as I've been coming, at least. There's been variations on it. Obviously, it's modular, so the point is you can switch it up. So it always looks very different. But I believe the same builder, Michael, has some variation of it every year. And I thought at one point it was on Lego Ideas or something like that, but he doesn't have anything about that now, so maybe I was mistaken.
And he did win Best Fortification for this theme this year, one of the theme awards in tonight's awards ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Best Fortification is an award I can get behind. That's pretty cool. So then we've got some slices of life in Middle-earth. It's a bunch of Middle-earth-inspired vignettes here, characters from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. You've got the Lonely Prison, just kind of on the rock there. The first of maybe several builds we'll see they kind of split between like above and below the sea. So
yeah. I think a lot of people were inspired by the Hidden Worlds theme, and thinking about the world that exists below the surface of the water was a common way that people expressed the theme this year.
That's a good point. So we should mention that the Hidden Worlds is the theme, so I'm sure you'll see some variations of that throughout the show.
I really like this clearly a Lego castle by Gene Tucker. That's pretty brilliant. You don't often see many mocks that are built completely out of transparent materials. I've seen it a couple times, but this is a pretty neat version of a castle made completely out of transparent bricks.
Mm-hmm. Down here we've got this town hall. This is built by Doug Hughes, who's got some other builds around the show that we'll come to later. Really awesome builder. Always has some cool stuff on display. So I like his carriage there as well, I think is a really nice touch. And then we've got a big village here, kind of build up with the rocks around the edge. Lots of fun little details.
I like the multiple layers that they've done through the pathway there, and using all those round tiles. It makes for really nice transitions between the layers.
And then Disneyland's Fantasyland. So this is really neat. I was talking to the builder of this earlier, and actually a bunch of stuff inside moves. I don't think it's on right now, but there's lights and it kind of moves and everything. And then you can actually spin the build around too. And so he's got the castle in the front, and then the whole Fantasyland with in the kind of plaza courtyard area back here.
Yeah, I've been to Disneyland a bunch of times. It's one of my wife and I's favorite place to go, and having spent time there, this is really accurate looking, especially the facade of the Flight of Peter Pan ride over here is the building with the brown and sand green tiles on the roof. I mean, it's just a really fine execution of the front of the way these buildings look, and they've done little versions of each of the rides that are right in the center of the heart of Fantasyland there. Yeah, I like this build.
Yeah, anything Disney inspired I think is always popular at the shows. So then you've got a bunch of different styles of castle building there, and then a big kind of island castle tower layout. It looks like we've got the blue kind of good guys on the left, bad guys red and black on the right.
I like the color scheme on the top of this castle. It's not something you often see with the sort of stone castle at the bottom transitioning into the more like painted houses kind of thing, but I like this. It looks nice.
Mm-hmm. And then another very large castle layout to the right here as well. So this is done by Bob Weiss, who has been a castle builder a number of years here at BrickCon. We've featured his work in the past. Always has some cool castle on display, and this one certainly doesn't let down. I love the kind of lower wall out front and then the bigger main keep as you go in, so it's kind of the multiple levels there.
I remember when I was a kid, I would get the Brickmania magazines, and I was always blown away on the mock pages by the giant castles that people would build, and I would imagine, some future where I would have enough Lego to build that kind of stuff, and this kind of castle really reminds me of that, that kind of just giant, like, awesome castle that you would, kind of covet as a kid. This is really neat. Mm-hmm.
I think castle is one of those things that's almost universal with kids, as far as like every kid wanted a massive castle if possible, but rarely had the pieces to at least make something, that looked good like that. It had enough gray or something to make a good looking castle. Then here's another excellent model. I love the crown mosaic on the front of this with the gold pieces. I think is really nice.
Yeah, that crown is good. The way they've layered all of those. I'm sure there's probably some tiles and, plates and maybe some jumpers in there. That's good looking stuff.
Then in the back there, we have, I think, Wizard Isle. So it appears to be a whole bunch of different scenes and stuff going on with like different areas. You got like ice and some woods and under the ground and all sorts of stuff going on.
My favorite minifig of all time is in this build. He has crashed into the bottom of the ice planet there. It's the, what is he, the classic space or retro spaceman from minifig series 17. This is a cool build.
And yeah, the castle here, this is the Purple Wolf Castle. So this is inspired by the Purple Knight from the Knight's Kingdom line. You don't see a lot of stuff from that castle line. I don't think it was one of the more popular ones. So a whole castle inspired by that character is unusual.
Yeah, it's neat, and I'm kind of glad they didn't make a purple castle. That would have been a little much, but they've done a nice job here with the purple knight pieces on the minifigures and some of the little purple accessories and the flag and whatnot. But otherwise, yeah, good-looking build with sort of a rare minifigure there. I don't know if rare is the right word, but something you don't see.
Unusual.
Yeah.
Next to that, it looks like they actually won for Best Collaboration, which is always a coveted award at these shows with all the different collaborations happening all over. And this is Cold Blood and Jake Hansen, their Hobbiton. And we featured some of their work in the past with some of the other collabs they've done in past years. But this one is another amazing collaboration that they did, instantly iconic and recognizable.
Yeah, it's Hobbiton, one of those places I would really love to go, and I feel like this, Mock does a great job transporting us there. Everyone needs to know, I know it's not a factual place. I just
Thanks for clarifying that.
I'd love to visit there someday.
The commenters were really going to be excited about that one. You let them down. Here's a stronghold now. So this is kind of more of a ice theme, and so you see just a little palisade wall there in this kind of barren area with a bunch of snow and ice. Probably a difficult area to survive.
Can I just quickly point out back to that modular castle over there? It looks just as good from the backside as it did from the front side, which, you know, can be challenging at these shows. So just a little point there an extra point for them.
And then in front of us here we have the Lord of the Rings Watcher in the Water. So you've got kind of the monster with all the tentacles. It looks like the builders actually got some movement. There we go.
Look at that! That's really something.
Yeah.
Good job, Steve. Holy smokes. What a dynamic build.
And it's not just the tentacles that move. It's all sorts of parts of the body and everything. So great work. Thank you. Very impressive. Smaller castle build, and then next to that we have a big battle layout. So it seems like every show you'll run into just a mass of medieval characters fighting it out somewhere.
Yeah, and you know, the good thing about this mock is if you accidentally hit some of those guys down with your backpack, you probably wouldn't notice which ones. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I feel like that might come from a place that we don't need to talk about.
Getting back to Star Wars here, we've come all the way around to the other side of Star Wars. A lot of Jake Sadovich's stuff. I have a couple builds here among Jake's, but you know, we've seen some of this stuff before, but he's just done some really fantastic work.
So you got Jake's speeder. Is that what those are called?
Pod Racer.
Pod Racer. Okay, there.
Pod Racer.
You know, I know a lot about Star Wars.
Yep, and then we got Mark Crookshank,
Yes.
and I built the orange one there.
There you go. So it was like you guys all kind of did them together.
Yeah, to complement Jake's. And then we've got Steve Peterson built all of these World War II Star Wars kind of crossovers where you've got these elements of these old planes sort of mixed in with Star Wars ships, and I was really pleased to see that. It's such
That is super cool. Yeah.
yeah, real neat idea.
Got Ian Heath's Leia and Jabba there, so that's one I think we've shown in the past. This is actually a number of builds by Ian Heath. He's got some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, he watched the Childish Gambino This Is America video like a week ago and said on social media like, oh, I should build a spoof of that. And so you're looking here at This Is Cloud City, which he apparently has built in like the last week.
He's very prolific. He gets those builds done fast. I like the depth of the layouts here is very interesting. There's like 3 or 4 like levels of builds that they kind of stack all in here, so the tables go quite deep.
Okay, I've just got to point out the 3 porgs there that have found a lightsaber, and it looks like one of them has his foot on the switch and the other is about to meet an untimely doom.
Just don't know which end is which there. And then here's some smaller Star Wars builds, kind of a Hoth layout with a Pirates of the Caribbean island, you know, underneath. Why not?
That makes sense. For some reason, maybe Disney will end up, now that they own Star Wars, expanding Star Wars to, you know, take over everything, and the old Pirates of the Caribbean ride will be laying there underneath Star Wars land.
There you go. Then we've got, is this the new UCS Millennium Falcon?
No, this is Austin Henry Biscup's build.
So we've featured this before. I'm really bad at identifying whether it's like the actual kit or not.
Yeah, so this is one thing that he has here, and unfortunately we can't see it. The newest thing about this build is he has added lights all over and underneath, so it's hopefully we'll get to see the lights sometime in the future. But it's really great because he sort of went to painstaking detail to make sure that every color of light and sort of the light intensity and the placement of the lights are accurate to the lights that you see on the vehicle in the film. So that's an impressive new addition to this build.
He even wrote, "This is not the set on the mock card." You know, I should have noticed.
And another Steve Peterson. We've got the SB-17G. This is in the colors of the Ghost from Star Wars. Another one of those cool World War II Star Wars crossovers.
The bubble turrets and everything there, pretty awesome. So I think that takes us to the end of this first layout, or first section. We'll move our way down here and keep going. One interesting thing at BrickCon this year, they have the road sign, so I believe that's a first. Then there's arrows on the ground, so they're really trying to control traffic. This show, I feel like more than any other big shows we go to, really struggles with the amount of public that comes in here in terms of keeping things from getting too overwhelming. So they're doing their best to keep that, under control. So then we'll start in with this corn. It's not a corn maze. It's just a overlook hotel maze that's probably because it's in pop culture. It's probably from something I don't recognize.
Right. Yeah. It is from the movie where he says, "Here's Johnny." They're up. It was filmed. Oh man, what's the name of the movie? Well, anyway, yeah, it's Jack Nicholson. He's in the movie and he's going crazy. I'll think of the name of the movie sometime later in the walk.
Now I'm remembering what it is, and I can't think of the name either.
Yeah, so this is actually in the movie. There is the maze, and then there's also a model of the maze. So it's actually become really popular to build models of the maze as a prop replica. The model of the maze that was in the film.
Is it The Shining?
The Shining. We nailed it. There we go. All of you commenters can...
The only way I knew that is because I recently watched Ready Player One, and have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
there's the reference to that in there. I've never actually seen The Shining itself, but...
And this is the maze. This is a replica of... I don't know if this is a replica of the maze or a replica of the maze, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Anyway, that is a maze. Next to that is Alison, Thorn, Finch's Noot Suitcase, and so this is from it's the Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts.
Yes, that's the name of it. So they built this whole thing like inside the suitcase. So there's like the floor and everything in there, and all of the plants and everything, animals, all within this suitcase.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this build is the ground is uneven. It's really neat. And the way she sort of just, they're not bent, but they're just kind of lofted around those curves, the way she's used those tiles. It's a neat look. Mm-hmm. And she's got sort of a little zone that represents each of the fantastic beasts that can be found down in Newt Scamander's case.
There you go, and we should give a shout out. She has the card sitting here. If you want to try to build like Alice, she has this new Lego architecture idea book that's super cool that I definitely encourage you to check out. I'm sure you can buy it online.
I think one more thing I want to point out is up here we've got. My guess is that this represents the case sitting on the floor up above, and down inside the case is all of this magnificent stuff.
That's a very valid point, Boone. Good eye, good eye. Next to that, we have writer's block. So this is kind of just a little small vignette with the writer, but then it opens up into this big thought bubble of him trying to imagine the scene. So I thought this was really cool, kind of creative idea here. I think this is pretty unique. You don't see that type of build very often. You've got Samurai Jack. You got the Stephen King's Dark Tower back there. Alice in Wonderland. That's pretty cool with all of the piano and clock falling and everything.
Yeah, that looks good.
You've got Frogger, Tomb Raider, Kevin Wanner's awesome build. It's not running right now, but we've featured that in the past, so if you want to check it out, it's really cool when it's all moving and all the action is happening. We've got a Tron build here, and actually the lights make this like 1,000 times cooler. So when the lights are on this thing, it looks, I don't know if you saw this earlier, Boone, when the lights were on, but it's pretty amazing. It almost looks like a 3D effect.
Yeah, that's great. I'll have to come back and check it out. I have not seen it with the lights.
And then we've got a big, long Raiders of the Lost Ark Indiana Jones build here. So this is super cool from the front because it depicts all the different scenes, or the kind of long scene here. But then it's even cooler possibly from the back because you can see how it all works. And so we did an in-depth video with this builder that we'll post at some point as well. But there's lots to see here. Then we've got once again an Alice in Wonderland build here.
I always like creative takes on flora, trees and flowers, and they've done a pretty nice job here with this landscape.
So for people who haven't caught on, we're in the pop culture section, so that is why everything is based off of some movie or something.
I like that Enterprise back there. That's a pretty nice, the ratios of scale are pleasing to my eye.
That's what it's all about. And then here's another Tron-inspired build. This is pretty great. So it's like the super old, was that like original castle sets that had the type of horse in the, that jousting scene, but it's all built into Tron.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's pretty creative. I like that. You've got Smokey the Bear back there. Watch it here. We're running into some people, so we'll try to move out of the way. So then we have the Lego turret, and so you've got a bunch of the different scenes there.
Sorry, I'm here.
Is this your layout here?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
so the builder joined us just in time. So you want to give kind of a quick overview of what we have here?
Yes. Okay. So this is the tarot, as in the tarot cards,
Okay.
tarot deck,
Yes.
and I always like to do something that no one else has done, and so I just thought I would put something cool together, and I started getting this concept of making these little vignettes, and I started cooking on them, and then there was more and more, and I don't know anything about tarot cards or the tarot. I just like the artwork. So I had to actually look up how many there were, and there's like 1 million different tarot cards, but I'm not going to do 1 million vignettes. So I did as many as I could. There are 27 represented here, and I just tried to think of things that other people would find cool and whimsical and just anything that came to mind. And so there's references here to all sorts of pop culture crazy subjects. We have here the Bible, the Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, A Trip to the Moon, Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars, Harry Potter. This one here is a SpongeBob reference in it. Wheel of Fortune, DC Comics, Lego Batman movie, and Marvel Comics. And there's also an A-Team reference down in this one here too. So it's all represented in this crazy cool vignette. And there's perks with them as well, like this one here. The Wheel of Fortune spins. The devil one up here lights up. The fire lights up on that one, same as the tower and the high priestess as well. And so I got to whip all of these out. I made them all in about 3.5 weeks. It was great.
Yeah, magnificent work, very creative. I like how you went in so many different areas there with those. So I'm sure it's fun to just kind of explore those different areas.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, appreciate it. So then if we keep moving down, what do we have down here, Boone?
The one thing that caught my eye here, we've got a lot of different characters from different, IPs. I love that Darkwing Duck. That is my childhood. I remember watching that, when I was a kid, and it was just so, it reminded you of so many things, because it was kind of like Donald Duck, and it was kind of like Batman, but it was neither of those things. It was this weird combination, and such a zany character, and so I really like that one. He caught my eye. It's hard to look at these without being able to capture it all, right? But we do have that Borderlands Vault Hunter up there that he won an award tonight at the show, as well as down here at the drawing board with Mickey and Minnie Mouse. That also won one of the pop culture awards. So there's just a lot of really neat characters represented here in pop culture, and they've kind of crammed a lot of stuff down into this end of the table.
Always so much to see here, brickheads and everything else, lots of neat stuff. And then here we come to another build by Doug Hughes, the builder I mentioned earlier. So this is his Titanfall 2 scene. We actually featured this in a more in-depth video at an earlier show, so check that out if you want to see more of this, because it's really cool, and there's a lot of thought put into this build. I really like it. Behind that is Brandon Griffith's awesome Battlestar Galactica build here, which looks like it won Best Large Spacecraft here at BrickCon.
Yeah, the Battlestar Galactica, especially this version, with all it's round, but it's not, it's slightly round. I think the old version of the Battlestar Galactica would be easier to build out of Lego, and Brandon has just done a really fantastic job with this version and all of its slight curves, which can be kind of a challenge with Lego.
Down here we've got Ice Planet 2025, so it looks like kind of an Ice Planet spin on the rocket.
Yeah, when I first saw this, it was almost like in my mind, I was like, they took the Saturn V and made it Ice Planet, and that didn't make sense to me until I saw the top. And I was like, yes, the Ice Planet guys did have those rockets, and that was the thing, is like, we never knew why they were using rockets. It's Ice Planet, but they like carrying these rockets around with these magnets that were left over from Tron, and so I do think this is cool. And when you look at this, you see these transparent. I think transparent neon orange is what I think this is. This, if you imagine, would almost represent like a round 2x2 brick, and then this would be almost like the thickness of like a round 2x2 plate. And so they've sort of blown up, the rockets that used to come in Ice Planet sets, and also a train modeled in the colors of Ice Planet, which is kind of convenient because they've found enough of these old blue train track pieces to complement their Ice Planet build here.
A lot of blue and white in that build.
Another kind of neat translucent thing, which I commented on earlier. I really like the look of this.
Especially when you combine a bunch of different parts and like contrast there. I think that's nice. Then here's a whole bunch of space-inspired stuff. So you've got some like SpaceX stuff back there. All sorts of stuff going on. Looks like you've got like Voyager 1, even shows distance traveled for some of the exploration rovers.
And of course we've got Space Jam 2. a basketball-inspired space craft there.
Yes. It's really a thing of beauty. You've got Hidden Earth, Hidden Moon, Hidden Mars. So these are like boxes that in a scene. So you also have that in the back there as well with the space case. Like constellations and everything. And then 3 times space builds. So we've seen some of this stuff in the past. These builds just blown way out of proportion.
Yeah, and this one is even larger than the 3X. They don't have a scale listed here. But of course, the Galaxy Explorer, one of the kind of most iconic sets of all time.
We've got a little space fuel center next to that. And then around the corner here in this whole end of this kind of section of the convention is a collaboration by several different builders on a big space area here. And we have a more in-depth video where they actually take you through the story, because when they're telling the story, it's much more interesting. There are some great build techniques, but when you kind of understand the thinking behind it, it's pretty amazing everything they were able to put in here. But this one, Boone, I know you're a big fan of this section here on the left.
Yeah, this section on the left I think is one of my favorite, probably one of my top 2 or 3 favorite builds on the whole floor this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, with the coral look and everything underwater. Then over here you've got lighting and stuff. There's like a disco ball in there. Again, another layout where the lighting adds a lot to it. There's like lighting and movement when it's all going. It's pretty awesome. And then down here you've got like this lava monster thing is super cool here. So definitely look for the more in-depth video when we post that, because there's a lot to see there. Then
I think this is a really well executed flying saucer. I feel like the flying saucer was probably so ubiquitous that it then became kind of non-existent. Especially in Lego, you can only point to a handful of sort of true flying saucers in official sets. And so when you've got one that's sort of executed as well as this one, that always catches my eye.
A little friendly encounter there. And some smaller micro builds. I like the crashed spaceship on the back there, kind of how all the brown and gray pieces are thrown up like the Earth was all moved out of the way.
Yeah, and that was another one of the theme trophy winners this weekend.
And some more space builds and everything here. Some of these quite nicely detailed. I like this series of matching builds in the back here. That's pretty cool. How they all, even though there's different sizes and everything, different styles, the color scheme works really well.
Right, and I think one interesting thing about this is, if you imagine ships traveling through space, right? They don't really, I don't know anything about the physics of it, but I think they don't really have to be aerodynamic, right? Because they're out in space. And so this is sort of like a different take on the orientation of these ships that would be flying through space. And it's fresh and or refreshing, I guess I should say. This one right here, have you guys captured this on video? If you step back, it actually says the word space. So it sort of looks like a neoclassic space build. And it literally says SPACE.
And it's got the iconic colors and everything there. That's nice.
Another couple of Jake Sadovich's builds here. I love the fact that he is using a lot of these Technic figures. It's a really fun scale to build in. They're very articulate.
These colors of these pieces here is pretty crazy with kind of that mix of blue and gray. And then we've got like a heavy lifter, looks like one best medium spacecraft here.
I love the colors, the color scheme on that with the sand green and the orange and the yellow and tan. It's a good looking color scheme.
Then in the back is quite a large ship. So this is the Interplanetary Passenger Liner, I think is the name of this. And I love all the kind of gray struts and everything connecting everything in the middle there. And then the big white and red panels.
Yeah, and then we've got the solar shiv up here. I actually really like something about the color scheme on this too. A lot of white, a lot of gray, which makes sense for space. But then you've just got these little hints of blue and orange and yellow and a little bit of red, and those things. Just it's fun to me, but it doesn't look outlandish. I like it.
It kind of has that look like they maybe had to get some parts from somewhere else, replace some things over the years. So it's got that kind of spots of color.
Yeah, we're transitioning here into superheroes. Just have a couple of tables of superheroes here. The Starro the Conqueror versus the Justice League won one of the theme awards here tonight. And it's a really impressive build with a giant beast there and a lot of minifigs.
We've got a worm hunt down here. So a bunch of guys fighting a giant worm. Teen Titans Go. I love the forced perspective on this with the buildings in the background and kind of the words up in the sky there, and then this building right here kind of in the foreground with all the different rooms.
Yeah, Chris did a really great job with the Teen Titans Go logo back there, and it's just a neat backdrop to the city.
And then the Duplo Batcave next to that. So the Batcave is one of the most replicated things in LEGO. So many different variations. Why not have a Duplo one?
Yeah.
We've got the Sanctum Sanctorum here. Oh, those iconic windows are very, very recognizable there, so those are always neat. And then the Avengers Tower House Party. Little Venom. I think the latest Venom movie just came out as of this recording. I think, is it this weekend? I think it comes out, actually.
Yeah, I did see a lot of kids, noticing Venom and very interested. Mm-hmm. He's so hot right now, Venom.
That's exactly right. You've got the back computer there. We've got the Tick, which is that blue guy, which I'm not sure what that's from. I think I've seen builds of him in the past.
Yeah, it is the Tick. It's been cartoons, it's been live action, it's, I think, been comic books as well. Very kind of 90s thing, and I think it's come back on maybe Amazon Prime as well. So.
Gotcha. We've got the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, one of the lesser-known superheroes out there. And then Lobo riding his Space Hog here. Very cool build.
Yeah, this was built by the Superheroes theme coordinator, and the committee chose this as one of the theme awards.
And then next we've got a big long layout. This is done by Dave Sheffick and a couple of other builders here. Big long Christmas layout. So you've got like ski slopes, you've got all sorts of trees, little holiday buildings. The lights in there are really nice. So there's a whole bunch of lights in the back of the buildings there, which add some nice detail. And then you've got kind of all the main elements you would expect from a big kind of Christmas layout.
Yeah, this thing has just gotten bigger and bigger, hasn't it? I was talking to Dave about the Duplo train, and this Duplo sleigh came out last year with one reindeer and one sleigh, and he thought, man, what if I could have 8 reindeer and a train of sleighs, and he did it. And this thing runs around and looks really cute with all these people on there. And I asked him about the scale, and he said, it's just for fun. And he thought, and I thought this was a reasonable explanation, that maybe it's a parade, and these are kind of like floats, and these are big inflatable people. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to is it's just fun, and that's what this is for. And speaking of scale, I just noticed a Jack Stone girl back there. So
you never know what you're going to find.
A lot of interesting stuff to see in this build.
Next to that, we've got a couple of builds by Andrew Schultz. So you've got his gray house there. And then this is his Aliens-inspired build. So every year, for people who have watched these videos in the past from BrickCon, he has something Aliens-inspired. And this year, it's this big kind of Aztec-style pyramid with the 3 predators on top there being overwhelmed by the aliens. I don't think it's going to end well for them. And then here we have, this is Steve Oakes, who always brings something very different and very very interesting to see every year. You never know what he's going to show up with, so I always look forward to it. So this is his Friday night grudge fight with all of his sort of Miniland scale figures.
The thing that just caught my eye is I think this group of like people dressed up as Star Trek characters sitting in the front row, which...
And Indiana Jones right behind them.
Yeah.
It's like cosplay night at the fights.
Cosplay night at the ring. What a combination of. Oh, we got the Simpsons over there. There we go. Okay, so that's it. So we've put it in pop culture here and populated the audience with a bunch of pop culture references. That's good. I think that's Shrek. There's Shrek back there in the right. C-3PO, R2D2.
The cameramen in the balconies up top there.
Hey, it's John.
He finally got his own Miniland figure. And then we've got some SpongeBob-inspired stuff. Behind that is the wardrobe to Narnia. So this is really cool. This is done by Steve Jensen, and so this is kind of the iconic. If you know anything about Narnia, you probably recognize this. Going into the winter scene there, you can just kind of see the door open, looking into the scene, and then all of the nice detail on the outside of the wardrobe with the brown pieces, almost a Greebling style on the outside there.
It was fun watching this come together on setup day and wondering what the final piece was going to look like, and it really is quite nice. And it's big. It's cool.
And then I think the final build on this section is Holly Webster's house from Coraline, and so this is on Lego Ideas. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. She's been taking this around to a lot of really cool. There's even some stuff inside. It's not open right now, but lots of details and everything. So if you're a fan of the movie or just like houses or cool Lego builds, check that out on Lego Ideas. Definitely give that some support. So then over here, we'll continue on to the next big section at the build.
Look at the model team.
That's true. Why don't we? Sure, we can hit that right now. Let's. There's some side sections here, so this is a good time to check out. This is kind of the car section, and so Lino Martins is always kind of shining over here as the preeminent car builder in BrickCon, really the Lego community in general.
Yeah, we have not had this theme at my local con, and so I was really surprised to get here and see this, and I think it's a theme I'd really like to build for. There's a couple in particular over here that really catch my eye. One is the popcorn wagon, which is actually a replica of a real car that was a custom hot rod built in the 1960s, and it looked exactly like this. It's just a really impressive build to me.
Was there actually popcorn in the back?
Oh, there was absolutely actually popcorn in the back. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was a popcorn machine that made popcorn.
That's amazing. I would buy that car. That truck in the back there as well with like the lime green and then the red is also really, really neat. That color scheme is pretty sweet.
That almost looks like, what is that? Does it say what it is? Oh, redonkulous. It looks like, a Malibu? It looks like a Malibu well, he would be able to tell us what it is, but I feel like I recognize the kind of car that would have been customized from.
There you go. And then we've got Stan Solo's aluminum Falcon. So this is very Star Wars inspired, but more modern take.
Yeah, I love the the big guy that's sort of standing in for Chewbacca. He's got a big beard and a vest.
He's also like got the crossbow there as well.
Oh, that's good. Oh, and C-3PO is the gas tank, or the gas pump. That's nice. And I think R2 is the trash can. Funny.
Lots of neat stuff all along here. We've got, I love the bright colors. That always catches my eye with Lino's builds.
Yeah, and then we got heading on over here to Jake Sadovich's biplane. You know, Jake has built a lot of stuff in Technic figure scale, and the biplane, he's taken it all the way up to Galador figure scale.
Rare, often sought after, but often failed scale.
The epitome of Lego greatness, Galador. But a really fine, model plane here. Mark Cruikshank and I actually met Jake at his local Bricks and Minifigs a couple months ago, and he walked in with this build, and there was a dad there with his kid, and the dad made a comment, something like, oh, that's cool, but Lego doesn't make string, so can't be 100% Lego. And we were all like, no, Lego makes string. And Jake's like, yeah, this is totally Lego. So I do think he had used stickers to put on the JS, which stands for Jake Sadovich, and then the 0637, which of course upside down looks like Lego. And then he also wrote Sado Bricks across the top of the wing, which I think
is a lot of on-point personal branding in this build.
It really is. Yeah, he took his personal brand to the next level.
My favorite detail is that not only is the Galador couple taking a selfie, but the Jack Stone figure is the baby.
And they've got a selfie stick. Oh, man.
Yeah. No. Jake has some great builds. It's always fun to see what he brings to the shows. It's pretty crazy stuff. So then we'll come this direction, and I think we're sort of starting with a military section here. So come in here and check some of this out. We'll start with the big G.I. Joe layout, which I think we've featured in the past, but there's a big mosaic at the top.
With one minifigure walking anti-grav on the side of it.
Why not? And then you've got more of the actual G.I. Joe build here with all of the characters and the planes and vehicles and everything, kind of iconic G.I. Joe vehicles. And then in the back there is a series of builds that I think we featured most of, if not all, but most of in the past. And these are really cool. It's like historical scenes. So you got, I think it's like the Peloponnesian War on the left, so going back all the way to ancient Greece, then to like Roman times and Vikings, and the Battle of Hastings with like British, and then you've got the Aztecs, and American history with the Battle of Gettysburg. And it looks like you move into, you've got like a German World War I tank there, a more modern tank, maybe like Desert Storm, and then the world ends. And the Jack Stone figure is sadly caught up in the middle. And then you've got after the bombs fell, so it's kind of a fallout scene at the end.
It seems like they've put some interesting Easter eggs in these builds. We've got tanks rolling up on this castle with some strange sci-fi rocket that has landed in the water with little aliens.
This is the mod card says it's Major Nielsen and his attorney Mr. Carr, target-rich environment. So they appear to have mown down an entire medieval army here. Things did not go well.
I just can't get over the aliens and the life rafts. Oh.
The guy is the fishing pole, and they're just like, what in the world did we get ourselves into? I like how also there's not a single guy alive on any of the walls either. It's like they somehow like snipered all of the guys behind the wall.
Well, these guys are just like flying through the air then, which means they may not be dead yet, but perhaps about to be. And these two ladies are getting away with the treasure.
There you go. The women are the smart ones in this scene.
This mock just is the gift that keeps on giving.
There really is a lot to unpack there. It's pretty. I think it's a little too late at night for that build right now. We need to come back and check that out tomorrow. So this is another build by Kevin, who you mentioned earlier. So this is his Stardust Drive-In Theater. I think a highlight for me is definitely the sign and the lettering and all of that stuff over there. I think is really cool. The big arrow pointing sign. And then he's got some custom cars and stuff, some official Lego cars. It's kind of your classic 1950s, 60s drive-in theater.
So this Christmas advent calendar back here is really great. It's got a room for all of the 24 days leading up to Christmas. And, looking at it kind of reminds me of one of those little advent calendars from, my childhood or perhaps yours. But there's all this activity going on with Santa's elves, and we've got like some normal people in there. Really interesting. Lots of lights.
It really puts the standard Lego advent calendars to shame, I think, when you see that. It's pretty crazy. Whole bunch of trains here then. So I think a number of different builders worked on these, and you see stuff kind of represented from all over the country, different trains here. Looks like there's even the best rolling stock. So was that William Fong's build here?
Yeah, the St. Louis Car Company, that really, really nice looking car there.
He really did capture the look, that kind of old time look there, just so nicely. I think that is really cool. I'm not normally a big train fan, but that's pretty awesome. I think it definitely deserved the award. And then we come around to a kind of a nice city layout, part of which has this Mega Bloks factory. So there's a lot of toxic waste in there.
Yeah, always a fun trope there to, refer to the Mega Bloks as toxic waste.
Never gets old. Next to that is a rooftop party up here. So I think that's like a Beatles concert happening, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. Yeah, that is Dave Geddes' Let It Be.
There you go. Do you know if that's based on any like particular real concert they gave, or just something?
It is. I think that it is supposedly like, I don't know. I don't know if it's lore or if it was real, but that it was like their last concert. They went up to a rooftop or one of the last times they all played together or something like that. I know
the lines get a little blurry there.
Yeah, I know it's based on something that happened in reality, but whether the details are, factual or more sort of like folklore, I'm not sure. I do want to comment here on James Ritzman's Dutch Brothers, which he's actually called the Clutch Brothers here. Another good Lego pun. But I think the reason I want to talk about it is it looks perfect. It is a Dutch Brothers.
Is the Dutch Brothers a nationwide chain? I'm trying to think. I don't feel like I ever see those where I live.
I don't know the answer to that, but they're all over the place around Portland. Okay. I guess I don't even know if they're up here in Seattle, but most of the Dutch Brothers locations look just like this one does. And I think Clutch Brothers is clever.
It's a really nice spin on it. And we got some classic space modulars next to that. And then a big elevated train. And then coming around the corner, got some more train, kind of a beach scene. We've got the Love Shack. I love the use of all of the trans-clear type of transparent pieces there.
Is that like a wedding chapel? That's kind of. I think is that a bride in there in the door? I don't know.
That would appear to be the case. And then next to that, there's like a band performing in the pavilion.
Yeah, okay. A wedding venue, a high class wedding venue there.
Exactly right. And then to the right, we've got IKEA as well. So kind of iconic looking, yellow and blue color scheme.
This is actually a really fantastic replica of every IKEA in the world.
Thank you for that, Boone.
I don't know. I think this is actually the IKEA from Portland, or I mean the IKEA from Seattle.
It says Renton, IKEA.
The IKEA from Renton, or maybe.
Just keep naming cities, and you'll come to it eventually.
Yep.
The important thing is that they all look the same, so it doesn't matter anyway. So then down here we've got some Carnival rides. Carnival rides, I feel like ever since LEGO started releasing their sets, have become a super popular thing, and you see more and more and bigger layouts.
This one is really interesting. How are they accomplishing some of those? Are they decorating their own pieces back there?
I don't know what that is.
I think this person's decorating their own pieces. Those are some. It's an interesting look.
There's some third-party products involved somewhere.
Okay, yeah, and they're using like some fabric and stuff. Okay, they've done some of their own customizations.
Got a haunted house, kind of haunted world with the train. And here we've got a small pirate section, some excellent ships on the left. I love those sailing ships, always so beautiful, those big masted ships. Then to the right is a build called the Edge of the World, which is a super awesome build. Looks like it won an award called Why is the Rum Always Gone? So I think that's like a Jack Sparrow reference there. So there's lots to unpack in this build.
Definitely one of my favorite builds at this show. Yeah, there's just so many little things to see, and to know that Jason built this in, what did he say, 2.5 weeks? It's crazy.
Some more of the pirate ships and everything there. You've got kind of a different take on the Black Seas Barracuda in the back there. And then, once again, another of Jake's builds. He always brings a lot to every show he goes to.
Yeah, he really does. He's a prolific builder.
It's pretty amazing. Over here, we've got a few more pirate builds, some smaller scenes and everything. Lots of cool details in there. Pirates of the Caribbean scene. And then we have Grant showing off one of his latest builds here. So we actually did a more in-depth interview with this earlier, so we'll definitely check that out. But we featured Grant, I don't know, probably a lot of times on the channel, so you might recognize him. The most important part is when he picks it up and flips it over like a what?
Like a Dairy Queen Blizzard. Do you not have Dairy Queen in Indiana?
No, we do. No, I just wanted you to say that because it's better. It's better when you say it. No, that's a great build, Grant. That's pretty amazing that you can flip it over like that. So, very impressive.
What was the name of the award you won for that, Grant?
Let's see, the Port Royal Award? Yeah, BrickCon 2018. Yes. That's me.
Taking home the awards, as always, taking them from the rest of us. So then we've got a big build by David Frank here. This is a giant layout.
StarCraft?
Yes, StarCraft 2, I want to say, something like that. So I've never played this, but I've seen a number of StarCraft-inspired builds over the years, and they're always really cool. I feel like there's a lot of neat little factions in them. The color schemes are always really nice. Really different types of vehicles and spaceships and everything. So I'm very glad he brought this. I think there's a lot to see here, even as different types of trees. I mean, we've featured some of David's crazy builds in the past, so if you've seen that, you know what kind of work he does, and this certainly doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, it's really great. And then we're coming up on a World War I mock here. What can you tell us about this, Joshua?
So this is, you see a lot of World War I builds this year. I think it's because it's the 100th anniversary here in 2018 of the end of the war. So people are kind of like the height of interest right now. So you see this great German trench scene. They're dug down under there. You've got the medic and everything. Sweet custom printing on the helmets there, that camo pattern. You go into a lot of World War I museums and you'll typically see some helmets like that were preserved from the war that have that really cool camo pattern on them. So I've always thought that was really neat.
One of the things I appreciate about this build is how they have used the chain element, but they've twisted it and sort of compressed it, and it's actually a fairly convincing barbed wire. So that, you know, it's just a nice use of that element.
It's a fantastic way to do barbed wire, and you know, people have a lot of chains and stuff in their collection, so it works well. They even got some, I also want to point out here the one shell hole there that has kind of the neon green pieces, I think, to represent gas. So it's like the gas would just sit in the bottom of the shell hole there. I think that's nice, a very nice, like, historically accurate detail. I like that. And then we've got another trench scene here with some of the Germans defending once again as the Allies are coming at them. And then here we have taken into World War II with the Battle of Bastogne. There's Yoda riding a cow, kind of levitating over the church. So, I'm not sure the historical accuracy of that is still in question, but we'll see someday.
Well, you weren't there, so
That's true.
you can't really say.
I was not there. You are correct. Here's the Somme, another World War I battlefield. I was actually just there a few weeks ago. Really incredible place. Well worth visiting that, and Verdun and some of those well-preserved World War I battlefields that are really amazing to just walk around there and read about and study all the devastation there during the war. Then another set of builds by Doug Hughes here. So these were built for a contest, actually, which is why they're all kind of in the same color scheme. I love what he did with the beach landing craft here, where the beach is kind of the parts dumping technique. So typically you see that for water, but here you actually see it with the tan cheese slopes on the beach as the vehicle comes on land.
Yeah, that also won, I believe that, what is it? The
Skunk Works. Yes. So it's got like the stealth planes there. I like that trophy. That's pretty cool.
I like that, the color scheme on that ship. It's neat looking.
We've got a more traditional World War II beach invasion now. So kind of a Normandy landing type of scene. Some smaller World War II, more modern tanks. And then a cowboy campsite here. So going a little more old school. I love the brick-built horses. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's impressive. They look like they need to eat, but that's great techniques there.
So that finishes out this section. As we try not to fall over the bar, we will then go to the last big section here at the show and try to make sure we cover everything, show everything that's going on. So this is a big roller coaster that we actually featured recently. I believe the story behind this is that the builder had this kind of sitting, in mothballed basically for a number of years, and then just brought it out for like Bricks Cascade. Was it this year? I think was the first time.
Yeah, Bricks Cascade was the first time he brought it out in I want to say 9 years or 12
least,
years
yeah.
or something like that. Some long
Like
time.
a
Yeah.
significant portion of my life.
Oh, and here it goes. It's about to take the plunge. Oh.
Okay.
So apparently, if we scaled this roller coaster up, you would not survive the trip.
It would kill you. So I mean, you at least you'd be enjoying yourself, though. I mean, it'd be a pretty crazy experience.
It'd be a happy way to go.
Right. There are worse ways. And then I'm not sure what this is.
I'm excited about what's going on here, though. We've got these doors that automatically open to the side, and then we see a little bit of a different scene each time they open. So they'll close here.
So we have the builder back. Do you want to come down and talk about it real quick? Okay, so yeah, just feel free to explain what's happening here.
Here, I can actually. So these lights here, they aren't. The lights are. We tricked the EV3 back here, which is just running normal EV3 software, into thinking that was a medium motor, because of how the EV3's. There is an adapter from Lego incandescent lights to NXT or EV3 theoretically electrically, but the EV3 looks for a resistor where the NXT doesn't. So we had to do that custom. Even if you do like the brick stuff, custom lights, you still have to solder in that resistor.
Tell us about the scenes.
Yeah, sorry. These were made by my cousin. The scenes were actually they were I believe Jurassic World. He made them in order clockwise, so it was like 4 parts of the movie instead. So I don't know. I've actually seen the movie, but he generally is much better at the scenes than I am. I think it's the first hatching the dinosaur, the dinosaurs being big, the dinosaurs finding their new alpha, and then things going to, and then it turning into a horror movie because it's Jurassic World.
So it's the doors open and close, and then the scene spins, and you see a different scene every time.
Here, I can actually move the. I can actually take the roof off here, so that way we can see inside of it while it's working. The lights are just attached to the roof by standard, by this here, so we can just take that off. But so it has a countdown of 20 seconds here, and when it's closing, so now it's going to turn that 90 degrees, assuming stuff doesn't get stuck. So yeah, and it's we've gotten it actually to the point where it's less reliable if you mess with it, which is generally the inverse of what happens with Technic, which we are really proud of. So we just have it set on a timer, so whenever these open, this can't move, but whenever these close, it just turns the thing 90 degrees.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's very impressive. Thank you so much.
We have a bunch of RC cars. I'm really impressed with the cars here that are basically, official sets that don't come with motors, that have been reworked, with motors and steering. Some really cool cars here. Mm-hmm. Of course, there are some completely original mocks here as well.
This one here I want to point out, so this was actually built by Chris, who I got to meet for the first time here at the show. This was built for the contest that we held, the LEGO Reimagine contest earlier this year, where the winner went to the Skierbeck Fan Weekend with us. So this was the original set on the right there, and then that's his, I believe, 3 times kind of blown up version, which I thought was really neat. He captured all of the same details in there, just at a much larger scale.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things about that is the curved yellow hose, in like a 2 or 3 times scale. It's pretty cool.
And then some nice Technic models here. The Technic robotics.
I do love Victor's Nissan Xterra.
Yes.
One of, I don't know. I've always loved the Xterra, and he did win. He won one of the awards tonight for Technic.
Here's it looks like a Tower of Hanoi puzzle, so it's kind of a puzzle made with Lego. That's pretty cool. Alexander always has some pretty crazy Technic stuff here at the show.
Yeah, I think that's a machine that can solve the puzzle.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Then we've got a Benny Spaceship Adventure pinball machine. So this actually does work. Everything moves, and it can keep score and everything. So during the public, it's typically on, and their builders demonstrating how it works. And then starting now, as we cross the gap there in tables, we've got a massive layout. This is the Brothers Brick organized Ninjago collaboration. And so you start with Lord Garmadon's Volcano, and then a whole bunch of builders did different Ninjago-inspired scenes for the collab.
This is a really impressive collab. I mean, it's huge. I think there are 2 strengths that this collaboration has. They had a great, communication between the organizers of the collaboration, along with a standard that seemed easy to follow, and just a couple of great official sets and a film to draw inspiration from. So I think builders found it fun, and fairly easy to tackle something big and busy and exciting, and then bringing it all together really made for a huge, fantastic collaborative layout.
One of my favorite details is the radio station, WNJA. That's pretty great there. I thought that was pretty neat. So then down here on the corner, we have a build by Mark Cruikshank, and this is his massive Ninjago rolling city. And I believe he wanted to motorize this, right, Boone? But it can't actually move on its own, but there are moving parts.
Yeah, so he incorporated as much movement into the build as possible, because he realized at some point that, it would not roll because it got too large to roll. But he also wanted me to make sure that you could see that the front, he calls this the gut, where the motors run, and this opens and closes. And there's a lot going on here with different movements and a lot of little hidden minifigure secrets and whatnot.
Yeah. And it's, it's all sorts of small details and everything, just like very Ninjago City style. I like that a lot. Here we come to the excellent Dupocalypse collaboration, which I know you had a hand in, Boone, and a number of other builders. So we first showed this, I think, at Bricks Cascade. So where you guys first had this. Has it been updated and has much changed with it?
It has grown just a little bit, I believe. I believe that Mark has built this since Bricks Cascade. I really like that one. And then this was the Jurassic World Jeep. Mark and I actually bought one Jurassic World set because I wanted the Duplo dinosaur for the Duplo Batcave, and so we sort of drafted a single Duplo set, and I got the dinosaur and he got the Jeep, and that's where the Jeep went. And then Perry has also added sort of a dino mech over here.
I love how the tiny T-Rex arms are controlling the big arms there. That's pretty great.
It's a funny sort of take on the short arm T-Rex joke of old.
And then, as we once again try not to kill ourselves on these bars, we're going into Keith Reed's beautiful Fallout build here. So this is actually part of a larger larger layout that I think he's had in the past, where he's got the kind of rundown buildings on top, and then underground is all of the more living quarters where the people actually live. I think my favorite building here is actually the diner on the very left there. Mike Psyche's original set design for that is so awesome. But here, I think it really lends itself also to being like broken down and run down because of all the glass in it.
Yeah, the broken glass that Keith has done is just, it's amazing. And it's such an iconic official set that you see it in its rundown form, and it's like, yes, you've really nailed something cool here, Keith.
Yeah, I think that set just lends itself really nicely to this type of layout. Then we've got a Horror Mangrove Swamp. So this is another Lino Martin's build, who did all those cars we showed you earlier. So this is really cool. I like his interesting choice with the tiles, not to go any kind of like transparent, translucent look, just the solid color green. I think it gives more of that, murky swamp water, like you can't really see into it.
Yeah, it's good, and it still reflects because it's smooth tile, so you get that. It does look like water, but you can't see through it, into it. That's a good swamp.
And the dropping some like alligators down into the swamp monster there, keeping it fed.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. That's good.
And then next to that, we've got a bunch of dino scenes, like different dino vehicles, some steampunk stuff, and then the big Yamato class steampunk airship in the back, which is like a different take on the Yamato like battleship there. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, this is good stuff. We got Jake's triplane back there. A fun take on an old
That is
plane.
quite something.
I do love the blasts of the cannons coming out. So you got the blast and then sort of like the stream behind the cannon, and one of them is just a plume of smoke, which I think is actually a minifigure hairpiece. And the engine, I love the engine on that. And then this Red Rocket gas station over here, I just think is beautiful. The trophy on top there, they blew it up trophy, is there. But this, man, something that would have been built back in the heyday of Route 66, when the money was being put into like these extravagant things on just something like a gas station, and then completely run down, abandoned. I think this is a really great looking mock here. And it's called the Red Rocket, but you can't even see all the letters because they've deteriorated.
Yeah, Alan's a great builder there. It's always fun to see his work and kind of what he brings out to shows. Then we've got a bunch of smaller mechs. There's
Jeffrey's Revenge. Oh,
he's bringing it back.
oh, it's so sad.
It really is. Some other big mechs and lots of cool stuff. I know this This one down here, Boone, I know you're a fan of the classic space Voltron. So I believe that's kind of each section of the build is like a different classic space theme.
Yeah, so Angus built that, and he won an award tonight. So we've got, let's see, the Black Tron, the original Black Tron is the center there. We've got Space Police 2 as the right arm. We've got M-Tron as the left arm. Ice Planet 2002 as the right leg. And, of course, Classic Space as the left leg. And a really fantastic execution, a variation on the Voltron there. And some of my favorite themes of all time.
And then a couple other nice space mechs. We get into Micro. So this is all Micropolis. So you've got the big harbor and the cities there. A little World War II battle happening here. That's pretty cool at micro scale. Then you've got some like seasons, the windmills, and lots of other little micro scenes.
I like this one that looks like a building on the outside, and then on the inside it's a bunch of smaller buildings on these rock cliff faces. That's a neat little technique.
Cliff dwellings within an apartment building.
Right, yeah.
And Steve Oakes, who we mentioned earlier, this is his micro BrickCon, so it's this kind of like featuring mini land scale figures, looking at tiny micro builds of some of the stuff on display at the show.
I absolutely love the 1966 Batmobile next to the DeLorean. Those are just, I mean, fantastic in such a small scale. Oh, and on the X-Wing, look at the X-Wing. This is cool stuff.
And then final part of this layout is the Diamond Lattice by Alexander, who we mentioned earlier. So he's always got crazy shapes and all sorts of stuff he's working on with Technic. So definitely some neat stuff that he's displaying. We don't have too much left as we make our way over here. People might notice on the left up here is the GBC actually, so it's pretty boring when it's not running. We don't actually talk about that too much, so there's not a whole lot of point in checking it out when it's not running, but there is GBC. Something interesting about BrickCon is that unlike, say, the big Brick Fair, Brick World shows, the GBC here tends to not be one large collaboration, so it's several different builders kind of just set up their own areas and instead of all putting it into one giant layout. So you get to see a more kind of stylized single layout versus kind of the larger collaborations that you see at some other shows. So now we've hit the art section here. You'll see a lot of mosaics. You'll see nice whimsical, really nice builds like this one in front of us. This is Paul Hetherington. This is based on like an English tea kind of cartoon here, and so he's got the train, that really nice train station in the back there with the roof, which is fantastic, and then like the tea kettle water tower there. So everything about this build is just so awesome.
Yeah, Paul just kind of blows me away at how he can build in any scale. You know, he can build an excellent award-winning build in minifig scale. He can build an excellent award-winning build in, much larger scales, in life-size scales, and in, so this is another one. You look at the front of that building there, and it's just really dynamic, and the shingles on the top of the roof, awesome stuff.
Even the faces on the women in the train and everything, just so nice. And then we've got like an aquarium.
I really like that book back there. It looks like Jack and the Beanstalk.
You've got the king and the queen.
Yeah.
And then all the different, like even all the leaves have different patterns on them and stuff. So this is really fantastic.
Yeah, I love the idea of creating a floating city in the clouds out of Lego, and this is one way to do it. It's really, really cool. Got one of Jake's newer things there, the ornithopter right next to his original ship in a bottle. Yes. I also like this crystal sphere. You know, if you look at it and you really break it down, it's a fairly simple concept, but it comes out looking really dynamic. And I want to say there's only one element there. I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I could
looking
be wrong
at it.
about that, but I think it is a trans-clear 1x2 plate used over and over again. I like that one.
We've got some of the Lego photography, a giant Minecraft Steve, so he gets his own like carpet there. Always Minecraft always up. I don't think that will ever not be popular. You'll see Minecraft builds forever at these shows.
Yeah, and I got to comment on Ghost in the Machine, a really great, large replica of one of the old, very classic wedge printed bricks there, and then there's a door on the side with a little ghost inside. I think that's a pretty funny joke there.
I want to give a shout out to Ryan Howarders, his Jens. So that's a brick-built version of one of the Galador characters. Galador is a bit of a renaissance, especially after the latest Brick Fair Virginia show earlier this year, where there was so much Galador on display. They had one of the original voice actors there and everything. So, original actor from the show, I mean. So it was pretty amazing with all the builds on display and everything. I think there's been much more interest in Galador recently. It's one of the more unique things that Lego has done. And then the giant mosaic there is pretty awesome. It's called like Fire and Brick. And then like a teach piece mosaic, childhood dreams. So sort of a very creative, whimsical. I like the arrows that kind of tell you which direction to go in.
Yeah, and so if you look back at the top left there, you see the child's room. And you see the layout on the floor of the toys that the child's playing with to imagine. And then you see that replicated in the rest of the mock. So it's actually very dynamic. It's almost hard to see the connection between the two. But Kevin did a really great job here. And I love... and then the child is in every vignette. So the child has, the red Classic Space shirt on and just a blue baseball cap. And you see him sort of playing out his childhood dreams in all of these scenarios. Oh, and I got to comment on Molly's Neighborhood of Make-Believe. I always love this thing when it comes out. Mr. Rogers was near and dear to my heart. So I love it when she pulls this thing out. And right above that, we have Brett Hooper's City of Troutdale.
Represent!
Mosaic. Yes, he won Best Mosaic tonight with the incredible execution of this greebling. I think he's probably the only person that brought this style. I want to say he was inspired by some of the Greeble mosaics that are over in Billund, and he came back and just did this, and just the execution is what won him this award tonight. Great job, and congratulations, Brett.
Way to really rep the local Troutdale. That's what it's all about, right, Boone?
Yeah, gotta represent Troutdale. 97060.
Just rolls right off the tongue. Now we've got some of Wayne Hussey's massive builds, and he's had these on display for years and years here at BrickCon. Basically very iconic Seattle buildings. You've got the Space Needle, you've got the Smith Tower, you've got one of the local ferries, and then the big totem pole. So these are kind of iconic Seattle area buildings and things that you would see.
Yeah, I love these. If you've ever been on one of the Seattle ferries, you kind of know how iconic this thing is over here, and just a few fantastic Seattle icons here.
And then we see some vendors left here all closed up, so I think that just leaves Bionicle as the last section with builds for us to show here, and then we'll have covered everything at BrickCon. So in terms of space, much smaller than some of the other shows we cover, like BrickWorld Chicago or Brick Fair Virginia, but they pack a lot of incredible stuff in here. So you'll notice that a lot of amazing builds put into a small area here.
I think as we walk up to Bionicle here, it's interesting to note that it is actually by mock count the largest theme at this show. I think the next largest was space, and it was under 100 mocks, and I think there are 119, I want to say 119 individual Bionicle mocks here, making it the largest theme at Brick's at BrickCon 2018.
Not traditionally a big theme here at BrickCon, but this year definitely the builders have represented with some incredible builds. There's Dorito Man back there holding his Doritos with that like black and dark purple look is pretty sweet. And then we've got this winged creature here, all the tubes and everything. Very intimidating.
I really like this Red Razor scrap racer bike. This thing really speaks to me for some reason, probably because I've built speeder bikes and pod racers and those kinds of things. I like this guy and the way his stance on the bike. And then right next to that is this Blastoise Dragon. Really amazing use of these Bionicle pieces. I mean, this thing looks like it could just come alive.
And I should mention a bunch of these, especially on this end here, were all built by Brienne Sledge, who's just a very talented builder and really represents Bionicle in this style of building very well for a number of years.
Yeah, she won 2 theme awards tonight.
There you go. Very, very nice. So I think then that does finish out the show for us here with Bionicle. We've gotten everything. Is there one more you want to mention down here?
This one right here, the Hellwalkers is a band. We've got this guy rocking out on guitar and then another guy on the drums, and they are actually on a stage that looks like it could walk around on its own Bionicle legs there. And the drums, big Technic wheels. I like this one.
I agree. That is very neat. And I think just as we were ending there, I heard the announcement that they're kicking people out soon. So we're finishing just in time here, Boone. We timed that perfectly. I knew it would work well. So we were able to show everything at BrickCon 2018. I hope you enjoyed that look at all of the builds. As I mentioned a few different times, we've got much more in-depth builds with a lot of these layouts. So definitely keep an eye out for those as well, because it's always great when you can have the builders themselves talk about their creation. So thank you so much, Boone, for joining me on the tour here. I can't wait to see you again at some other exciting show in the future.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Appreciate it. It's been a great weekend. Thanks for watching.
Yes. Have a great day.
How does that look?